Hi, I'm James Robertson, and I'm going to continue my series on the ERP Accelerator methodology to delivering a high value ERP outcome. And we're now looking at the section on decision, whether to remediate your existing ERP, re-implement it, or to buy a new one. You've got an ERP, or you're advising a client who has an ERP. And the question arises, do we replace it? Do we remediate it? And the conventional wisdom today is replace. But there's a brutal truth. I did a Google search a couple of days ago, percentage of ERP implementations that fail outright, and the figure came in at about 40%. And I would suggest that 40% are largely ERP replacements that should never have been replacements. They should have been remediated because the corporate appetite was just not there for everything that was required in order to replace. And it's probably more pronounced than that. So let's look at the potential value of ERP Remediate on a 2080 basis. A truly high value ERP implementation delivers value through high quality strategic executive decision support. A typical ERP implementation, however, focuses on the 80% of the operational effort that delivers 20% of the value, and it gets in the way of value yield. Remediation should focus on the 20% of the effort that will deliver 80% of the strategic high value effort. In nearly all cases, remediation correctly executed will deliver exceptional value. And folks, you're going to get from this presentation that I'm saying that a significant number of ERP implementations should not have taken place, that they should have been remediation. So key inputs to the decision: recognize the huge investment in personnel learning how to use existing software and all the other facets of the existing investment that will be trashed in the event of replacement. The outputs of diagnose what is wrong and what can be done to fix it within the present ERP will guide you on this. It's absolutely vital that there's clear CEO and C-suite custody. This must be a business strategic investment project, not a technology project. And then a clear definition of the strategic essence and understanding what is required to align the ERP with that essence. And recognize that in nearly all cases, remediation will get the job done. So I want to introduce the concept of what I call an IBIS, an Integrated Business Information System. And the IBIS is your ERP, your industry-specific packages, your WMS, your TMS, etc. It's your data warehouse and BI. It's whatever bits of customization you've got within the ERP. It's whatever bits of custom development you've got around the ERP and the WMS or whatever. And it's the spreadsheets that are ubiquitous. And more recently, it's the AI that's been tacked on to that. Now, this diagram was drawn about 20 years ago, and the basic message hasn't changed except the addition of AI. And frankly, basically what it boils down to is if you replace the ERP, you trash just about all of that. Even the WMS or whatever is going to need some measure of re-implementation. So let's look at the real cost of replacing an ERP. On the left is a list. I drew up a list of the things I could think of. I then put it into ChatGPT and said, tell me all the hidden costs. And it came up with that list. And the indications are, I've not come across any formal research, but the indications are that the real cost of implementing an ERP or any other major business system are very substantial, typically 3 to 5 times the visible budgeted costs. And so we have the cost for the software, we have the implementer quote, etc. And we think that that's what we're in for. But in actual fact, what we're doing is open heart surgery on the business. And you need to be clear, if you're going to decide to replace your ERP, are you willing to incur all the costs that are on the screen there? And let's just put that in context. If we talk about replacing... If we talk about replacing a building, that's what it entails. And I want to suggest for your consideration that replacing an ERP is every bit as destructive just in less visible costs. And I want to reiterate my point earlier on that a substantial number of ERP failures are because the ERP should never have been replaced in the first place, and there really wasn't a business case to do the job properly. Because if you're going to do the job properly, you've got to be willing to incur all the costs that were on the screen a minute ago. If we look at remediating a building, this is what we're looking at, and what we have here is a series of images through the life of a building that was derelict, absolutely run down. You can see the first image there, and was systematically gutted, sterilized, refitted, and turned into a block of reasonably upmarket apartments. And you can do that with your ERP. It doesn't matter how badly it is, how bad it is right now. So if we look at reasons to remediate, in general, it's practical to remediate incrementally in a controlled manner. Replace and re-implement are extreme events not to be undertaken lightly. The default position is remediate. The remediate decision should be accompanied with a very detailed analysis of what needs to be fixed and how it is to be fixed. This will require workshops, detailed consultation, and careful analysis with strong experienced strategic project leader leadership. Remediate is a different mindset. And if we look at the scale of the alternative scenarios, basically what we've got on the left is the traditional approach to ERP implementation, and I'm just using that as a benchmark, saying that the total cost of that for any particular organization is a factor of 1. If you do the same project but use the ERP Accelerator, you'll probably come in at about 80% of those costs. If you re-implement the existing ERP, you'll probably come in at about 60% of those costs. But if you remediate your existing ERP, you're going to come in between 5 and 40% of the cost of a new implementation. So you really, really need to be very, very clear if you're going to put in a new ERP. And then there's another thing, because I hesitate to call it a lie, but it is going the rounds that your ERP is obsolete, that the vendor is discontinuing support, and that by some date in the future, in some cases 2027, they will discontinue support and you will be left high and dry. Now, there are a couple of points on that. The first is that there are vendors, or not vendors really, there are third-party service providers like Rimini Street who will take your existing SAP, ECC, or Oracle financials and take it over without support from SAP or Oracle. The other side of it, and it doesn't matter because this is happening with Infor, it's happening with IFS, it's happening with all over the place. Many years ago, there was a legal dispute between a motor car manufacturer and a third-party pirate parts supplier who was providing exhaust pipes when the owner of the intellectual property had stopped performing it. They went to court, and eventually a House of Lords judgment said there is a right to maintain and repair. If you buy something, you have the right to maintain and repair it for as long as you want to. Costs are your problem. So there is a legal basis for you to go to your vendor and say, you know what, I want to keep with the present version. I accept I'm not going to get upgrades. I accept that there are going to be limited support for statutory changes. However, I want to keep it, and I'm demanding that you support it. I've done this once with a client and negotiated a 5-year stay of execution and allowed that client to go on for 8 years with their present version of the ERP. So procurement, if required, needs to be tough. I have a 3-stage process. Substantial, tough document pack, especially the request for proposal, closes all the loopholes. You need to cast the net wide with all vendors who are potential players. Vendors need to recommend the most appropriate implementer for your geography, etc. And in round 1, you need to have about 5 to 15 bidders, a tender briefing, individual Zoom calls to answer questions. Round 2, 2 to 3 candidates, at least 1 day on site with each, and visit their sites. Tighten your offer, their offer. Round 3, preferred bidder, at least 5 days on site. Detailed discovery and scoping, negotiating the contract, negotiating the price, and building a relationship. And then Exco approves and sees. I've got a proven methodology. Talk to me if you do need to procure. So sum up, decision is a fork in the road that will impact a business for the next 10 to 20 years. It's essential to get it right. Dig as deep as necessary to be confident in the decision. The end result we're looking for is a high-value thrive outcome. So that's it, folks. That all feeds into my accelerator. We've looked at diagnose, custody, align, and now we've looked at decision. I will be looking at cameos of specific parts of decision in the week or two ahead, and we'll then go on to precision, prove it works, make it work, and thrive. We've also looked at the engineering approach. Please drop questions in the comments. And that's it, folks. To learn more about my free 90-minute briefing, how to maximize ERP value, please click on the link in the comments below. I look forward to meeting you. Thanks so much. Bye.